tonight. Prime Minister Andrew Holness announces that nomination day is August 18 and the general election will be held on September 3.
The general elections for the year 2020 is therefore Thursday, September the 3rd, 2020.
Jamaica Debates Commission in preparation mode for the national political debates. Still tonight, Minister of Local Government and Community Development announces that 17 beaches and 19 rivers will be closed for 14 days. And Office of the Prime Minister temporarily suspends operations at one of its offices due to a suspected COVID-19 case. Good evening. Prime Minister Andrew Holness, during today's sitting of the House of Representatives, announced that nomination day will be on August 18 and that the general election will be held on September 3.
I have advised the Governor General in accordance with Section 64(5) of the Constitution to dissolve Parliament on Thursday, August 13, 2020. Acting on my advice, the Governor General is expected to take the necessary steps required by Section 64(1) of the Constitution to dissolve the Parliament by proclamation. I now further advise, in exercise of the powers conferred upon me by Section 21(1) of the Representation of the People Act, the following notice is hereby given. 1. This notice may be cited as the Representation of the People Act, Appointment of Nomination Day, Notice 2020. And 2, Tuesday, the 18th day of August 2020 is appointed as Nomination Day. This notice has been gazetted today, Tuesday, the 11th day of August 2020. Consequently, the date fixed for the taking of the polls, that is the general elections for the year 2020, is therefore Thursday, September the 3rd, 2020.
Mr. Holness further encouraged Jamaicans to work towards a peaceful election.
We will be quick. We will be efficient. We will be peaceful, and I raise this issue here in Parliament. This government, under my leadership, seeks no confrontation with any other political party. Mr. Speaker, this must be the most peaceful election. We are having an election in a pandemic. I know that both parties' representatives have met, and I'm hoping that shortly the protocols which are developed by the Ministry of Health, finalized by both political parties. Once that is done, then I will place them in the Disaster Risk Management Act as orders, which means consequences will flow for breaches. It is very difficult. I have been on the road. I have seen it. I take this opportunity to appeal to supporters of both political parties that it is important that politics does not become a cause of the spread.
Now, in response to the announcement, opposition leader and president of the People's National Party, PNP, Dr. Peter Phillips, says he welcomes the announcement. Meanwhile, scores of PNP supporters gathered outside Gordon House earlier today, awaiting the announcement. In other news tonight, the Jamaica Debates Commission, JDC, says it has moved into its most active period in preparation for the staging of the national political debates. The Commission says that it has already held consultations with representatives of the ruling Jamaica Labour Party JLP and the opposition People's National Party PNP, and an MOU was signed on October 16, 2019, with both parties agreeing to the debate. As a result of the COVID-19 pandemic and the Ministry of Health's guidelines preventing large public gatherings, it has anticipated that there will be no mass political rallies. As a result, the JDC says political debates will play a significant role in educating the public on the issues and how the political parties plan to govern. The Commission says that it has been actively engaged in securing financial support to underwrite the staging of the debates. Meanwhile, with the island's two main political parties in general election mode, President of the Jamaica Teachers Association, JTA, Owen Speed, says it is not a good time for the polls to be held, with the current spike in COVID-19 cases coinciding with back-to-school preparations.
Monitor that. We don't have enough police and soldiers in this country to monitor situations like those. We believe it is almost bordering on irresponsible for an election to be called in the middle of the COVID crisis. Just the COVID crisis alone would put a dampener on the spirits of the people who are supposed to be engaged in the education process. But when you add the whole possibility of having a general election which is going to impact every single community in this country, that indeed is a recipe for disaster.
Mr. Speed says with the increase of coronavirus cases, he is concerned about the likely negative impact of national polls on the scheduled start of the new academic year in September.
Well, right now, the Jamaica Teachers Association, the teachers of Jamaica, the parents and the students, at this time they are like a bridge over troubled waters. Just by the fact that there is a serious spike in the number of COVID-19 cases in the island. Indeed, for the last maybe 9 days, we have had about on average 16 cases per day. And that is telling, because I remember when we had the first 140 cases, everybody was afraid. And I can't see that everybody is now just going to be comfortable getting back out there into the school system with a transportation system that we have in Jamaica that is really almost disgraceful, to say the least. And so I am citing problems for the reopening of school, especially when you compound the fact that there is a spike in the number of COVID-19 cases.
Still making news tonight, Minister of Local Government and Community Development Desmond McKenzie announced that 17 beaches and 19 rivers will be closed for 14 days starting August 14.
Have made it necessary for some strong actions to be taken in regards to the operation of 17 beaches and 19 rivers across the country, which would come the 14th of August, we will be closing the following beaches: in Kingston and St. Andrew, Bob Marley, St. Catherine Elshaw, Clarendon, Folkestone Beach, Manchester, Alligator Pond, St. Elizabeth, Great Bay Beach, Westmoreland, Bluefields Beach, Norman Manley Beach, Trelawney, Burwood, Jacob Taylor, Half Moon Bay, Victoria Charlotte Beach in Trelawney, St. Ann, Ocherous Beach, Turtle Tower Beach, Fantasy Beach, Cardiff Hall Beach, Flavor Beach in Portland, Winifred Beach, Frenchman's Cove, and Boston Beach.
Mr. McKenzie, who was speaking at the sitting of the House of Representatives today, also said his ministry will be working closely with the police to ensure compliance. Mr. McKenzie further announced that effective August 24, small outdoor events such as parties, round-robins, festivals and launches can only be held Thursdays to Sundays from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m.
I am today announcing some revised measures to govern the hosting of small outdoor events. There are many persons who have failed to observe the necessary restrictions that have been placed. As of the 24th of August, Mr. Speaker, small outdoor events, parties, tailgate parties, round robins, launches and festivals with the necessary permits will be allowed to operate on specific days. And the days are Thursdays, Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays between the hours of 6 a.m. to 10 p.m.
Still making Mello TV news, the Office of the Prime Minister, OPM, has implemented protocols consistent with COVID-19 guidelines and has moved to temporarily suspend operations at one of its buildings on the property due to a suspected coronavirus case. Out of an abundance of caution, the Permanent Secretary in the OPM, Mrs. Audrey Sewell, has advised that the building in question will be closed for deep cleaning activities. Mrs. Sewell said, and I quote, "While there is no confirmed case, we are taking every precaution at this time. A member of staff has been advised by doctors to stay home after displaying flu-like symptoms on the weekend. The employee did not turn up for work yesterday and was responsible by reporting the matter to the director in charge of the division. As a precautionary measure, I made contact with the Ministry of Health and Wellness and we were advised to close the building for 24 hours and facilitate deep cleaning." End quote. The OPM says that the building is not linked to the executive building, which poses no exposure to the Prime Minister. Meanwhile, Digicel's Ocean Boulevard building in Kingston was closed today for deep cleaning and sanitization of all physical spaces in the next 24 hours after an employee there tested positive for the novel coronavirus COVID-19. In a statement released earlier today, Digicel says that the employee concerned is not based at that location and out of an abundance of caution, it will carry out air purification activities. Digicel says all staff members that have been in immediate contact with the employee have been tested and placed in self-isolation in line with the Ministry of Health and Wellness's protocols. The company further advised all employees to work from home today while the deep sanitization and air purification work is carried out. The office will be open for normal operations tomorrow at 7 a.m., Digicel said. Continuing with the news tonight, the Ministry of Health and Wellness has allocated over $1.1 billion to provide meals at the Kingston Public Hospital, KPH, and the Victoria Jubilee Hospital, VJH. The three-year contract that was signed between the Southeast Regional Health Authority, SERA, and the service provider, Patsy Lynn Caterers Limited, yesterday at the National Chest Hospital in Kingston. Under the contract, 3 meals will be provided daily for doctors, interns, and patients at the hospitals. Also at the ceremony, another contract valued at approximately $69.3 million for the procurement and installation of a neurosurgical microscope at the KPH was signed between SERA and supplier Industrial and Technical Supplies Limited. The microscope is especially adapted for surgeries involving the brain, spinal cord, and spine. Health and Wellness Minister Dr. Christopher Tufton, in his remarks, commended the island's public health practitioners and stakeholders for the good work that they do daily. In news from St. Catherine, 29-year-old Lavon Foster, otherwise called Justin, of Farron Place, Portsmouth, has been missing since July 17. He is of dark complexion, slim build, and is about 6 feet tall. Reports from the Waterford Police are that Foster's mode of dress at the time he went missing is unknown. All efforts to contact him have proven futile. Anyone knowing the whereabouts of Lavon Foster is being asked to contact the Waterford Police at 876-988-1763, Police Emergency 119, or the nearest police station. Still in St. Catherine, 20-year-old Daniela McIntosh of Duncan's Road, Waterford, has been missing since July 23. She is of dark complexion, medium build, and is about 5 feet 8 inches tall. Reports from the Waterford Police coming into our news centre are that McIntosh's mode of dress at the time she went missing is unknown. All efforts to contact her have proven futile. Anyone knowing the whereabouts of Daniela McIntosh is being asked to contact the Waterford Police at 876-988-1763, Police Emergency 119, or the nearest police station. In news from St. Anne, the police have launched a murder investigation following an incident where a woman was allegedly set ablaze by her husband in civil settlement last Saturday. The deceased has been identified as 31-year-old Raquel Rattray of civil settlement. Reports from the police coming into our news center tonight are that at 12 a.m. Rattray and her spouse had a disagreement at their home, allegedly over monies raised from the opening of their shop. During the dispute, Rattray's husband reportedly poured gasoline into the shop to set it ablaze, and in a bid to stop him, she rushed into the shop after him. He allegedly set it on fire and locked her inside. Residents in the community summoned the police and the fire department after hearing the woman screaming from inside the shop. Upon their arrival, the firefighters carried out cooling down operations, and Rattray's charred body was found among the burnt rubble. Rattray succumbed to her injuries yesterday, while her husband was taken into custody. Still making news tonight, the new water supply system in Newland in Western St. Thomas was commissioned by the Member of Parliament for the area, James Robertson, and the National Water Commission, NWC, following several years of the area being without water. Mr. Robertson, in his remarks, outlined the cost of the project and expressed what this means for residents in the community.
$20 million for this project is important and significant. Approximately 2,000 residents will be getting water from this tank. Newlands, you're a happy place. I want to say to the National Water Commission and the Prime Minister, when you turn on this system for $20 million, the economic drive that it does for us is prosperity. It is truly prosperity, and I want to say thank you. All of the other communities of West St. Thomas that are without this level of water supply, I want to say to Councillor Spencer, who is here from Seafort, Stewartfield, Soho, I want to say to the Seafort Division, we understand. You are next. I want to say to the National Water Commission and the residents of St. Thomas, it is 2 new wells that have been commissioned this year. One at South Haven and one just by Goodyear Factory.
Now, Councillor for the Yalis Division, John Lee, said this was a long overdue project and shared his joy that it has finally materialized.
We now, as residents of this community, has to play our part. We are long overdue of this system, and it has finally arrived. And I just want to say to the entire NWC, thanks.
Minister of Health and Wellness, Dr. Christopher Tufton, who was in attendance, explained that water is essential in fighting the coronavirus.
Water is really life. And you know, everything is connected. Because a big part of COVID, which is my message now, is the extent to which we sanitize and we rid ourselves of the possibility of transmitting the virus. And the virus is very contagious. It easily moves from one person to the next.
And those were the stories making news. I'll return with the recap. We'll now take a break and then join Christopher Scott with sports.